Just a little bit of royal news roundup for you today. A little bit of stories that you may have seen, may have missed, and you want the inside track on. Now, one of my favourite actresses, I think she's simply fabulous, is none other than the brilliant blonde, of course, of the 1970s, Susan George, who shot to fame in that rather racy movie, if you remember, Straw Dogs. We haven't had a wave, have we? Sorry, I have a lovely wave. Thank you so much as ever for taking the time out to join me. Susan George, of course, also had, shall we say, a little bit of a liaison with a wonderful singer and good friend of mine, Jack Jones. Remember that in the 70s. People sort of had different, well, it was sort of different publicity then, wasn't it? But did you know, of course, that she also had quite a few dates with our king? That's right, King Charles III. Now that had totally bypassed me, I've got to be honest. I bumped into Susan George the other day. I haven't seen her for ages. Of course, she still looks as wonderful as she always has. And more importantly, many people will remember her husband, the gorgeous Simon McCorkindale, who played alongside Jane Wyman in Falcon Crest. Do you remember him in that now? Wonderful. I also remember him starring opposite Betty Davis on the Orient Express film. Just a good actor. Now, Susan, as I said, had quite a few dates with Prince Charles as he was then, and now she's planning apparently her tell-all book. Aren't they all? But the interesting thing is, I did say to her, what are you planning to reveal? And as ever, naturally, being the lady that she is, she said her lips are sealed, but she will be delving into that particular relationship. I asked her, did she ever think it was going to be serious? Did she ever see herself on the palace balcony? And the bottom line was, she said, it was a totally different time. You didn't kiss and tell at that particular point. But more importantly, she said, he was an absolute gentleman and we're still friends today. So I would assume, of course, that, well, Susan didn't really have necessarily an eye on being Princess Susan. What she did enjoy, of course, was her acting career, and that went from strength to strength. Another lady who's gone from strength to strength is none other than Dame Joan Collins. And recently, I told you about how she's going to be playing Wallis Simpson in a brand new movie called The Bitter End. And this is all about, of course, the final few years of Wallis's life once she became a widow. And it's going to be directed and produced by Mike Newell on a script from Louise Thennell. What's interesting here, though, is, and I didn't realise this until re-encountering this with Joan, was the fact that actually this has been a movie in the making for some time. And Wallis's story, as we've said many times here on the show, is fascinating in so many ways. But apparently the reason why it's taken so long to get off the ground is not just the financial backing, because obviously modern day audiences might not necessarily know who she is and less care, and it's all about box office and money. We know that, chums, don't we? But what's interesting is that according to Joan, they really wanted to wait until there was a respectful period of passing from our late monarch Queen Elizabeth II. According to her, and a good source, she would be featured in the movie, as of course was the infamous meeting way back in the early 70s. As I also pointed out, it was interesting to see that Queen Elizabeth had moved on, but the Queen Mother hadn't. And yet both Princess Margaret and Elizabeth really, I think, had a tinge of sadness about the way, in many respects, that Wallis had been treated. Maybe it's just different generations, who knows? Now, someone who's going from strength to strength also is none other than our wonderful king, King Charles III, right? Now, I just wanted to share this with you because basically I've been told this from an excellent source. He's busier than ever, and I think this is a lesson to be learned, actually. As we know, he's still undergoing treatment for his cancer, and he's just been steadfast about it, pushing forward, and all of that sort of stuff. But according to a good source, Queen Camilla can't keep up with him for the simple reason he doesn't want a spare hour or half an hour in the diary, likes to keep busy. And according to that excellent source, the real backing behind this is that he believes the busier you are, the more that you can heal yourself and just push forward, keep your brain going, keep active, that sort of stuff. Now, I'm not saying this is right for everybody, but what I'm saying is there's a lesson to be learned there, isn't there? Because even apparently on a night off that he had from work, he then went along to the opera, the English Coliseum in St. Martin's Lane, to see another wonderful production of Gilbert and Sullivan. And I did get to thinking to myself, this guy's 70 odd, I know things are done for him and everything, but really, as Camilla and the source that told me this was, people find it very hard to keep up with him. Now, maybe there's a lesson to be learned there, you know. The good point is, if you're feeling down, ill, not your best, keep active, keep busy, and more importantly, if you look at King Charles right now, he looks as good as ever, smiling through. And maybe that could be the key that nobody's told you and I when you get anything, well, you know, like what he's got, and more importantly, just a similar illness. Keep positive, keep smiling, and maybe take a direction from King Charles. You with me? Neil Sean in the very heart of London.